Welcome to the Business Playground, where we discuss real business owners' stories and their tips and tricks with no filters.
Good morning. Welcome to the Business Playground. My name is Jacob Odell, and today I have the honor of speaking with Mark Schutt, who I actually went to high school with. Unfortunately, we did not really meet each other too much, but here we are today, college students. He is a senior at SMU, and I'm at Morningside University. And through LinkedIn, we actually reconnected and are getting to know each other. But today, he is going to be talking about the different ventures that he has, whether it's real estate, Web3, crypto, NFTs, the whole shebang. And he is going to have a blast talking to us about it. And we've got some awesome questions. So Mark, give yourself a little introduction as well and some of the things that you do.
Awesome. Thank you, Jacob. Well, hello, everybody. My name is Mark. I'm from Los Angeles, California. I currently go to Southern Methodist University out in Dallas, Texas, and I'm studying real estate finance and entrepreneurship. Recently, about a year and a half ago, almost 2 years ago, I learned about this new concept called Web3, which, goes into blockchain and kind of crypto space. So I got heavily involved there. I'm currently involved in that. I run my own educational and networking community, which is also a service provider for brands, which I'm sure we're going to get into. But yeah, man, I mean, my background is in real estate. My resume is full of real estate companies that I've worked at, and I've kind of had some experience with shadowing mentors and getting really good exposure to multifamily as well as commercial. That's my specialization, also my favorite part of real estate. But yeah, that's pretty much where I'm at right now. I still do a little bit of real estate. Obviously, I'm studying it. I quit an internship this summer that I had for real estate to actually pursue this Web3 company that I'm trying to do full time. And yeah, I've just been working on that all summer. And yeah, here we are.
Here we are today, having a blast and dealing with the new world that we live in, because there's a lot of new things going on. And we've talked about this before. I'm not very familiar with Web3, so this is going to be super informative for me as well.
Cool.
And I know that the audience that's going to be listening and watching the videos as well is going to have a really big interest in it, especially with the youngness of our generation and wanting to actually get involved with this. But, they might be scared to jump into something like this, and you're just the guy to talk to about it. And I want them to go and contact you, of course, after this podcast and after this episode, to just get to know you and what Web3 is and all of that fun stuff. So what I wanted to ask you, though, is before you even got into Web3 and you were doing real estate, what drove you to go to SMU, and what drove you to actually, start down this path of business?
So I've actually been in this path of entrepreneurship since as young as I was, like as young as I can remember. I've always kind of had ideas of making money and always wanting to make money, whether that was like clothes or sneaker flips, or, I tried to do an e-commerce business during high school. Coming into college, I was working with a couple of people to try to put a deal together, a syndication deal. And then, as I was coming from high school to college, I really wanted to go to USC just because, back in Los Angeles, it's the biggest school. And also for what I want to do for business, it's the best school. And so the problem I had with that, though, is it was way too close to where I'm from. And I felt like I wasn't really going to get the experience that I wanted. So I found SMU. Everybody says it's the USC of the South. It's a very well-known school. It's a very business-orientated school, and it has a ton of great connections in Texas. And, I've never been to Texas before I came to school here, but it's a great place and there's a lot of money, and it's still very much so developing. So I think there's a lot of opportunity out here. And, once I came and toured here, I was like, this is the place. So with my experience at SMU, I came into college, I was really ready to kind of start my own real estate business, and not sure, really where I wanted to go with it. I was working a couple of jobs at, different property managements, also just all very big corporate companies that did it all across the board, acquisition, management, leasing, et cetera, development. So, I've made my way around town in real estate, and I was starting to get into wholesaling a little bit, and kind of thinking about what is the best way to structure a business coming out of school in real estate. Somehow I came across, in this endeavor, I came across, crypto, investing into crypto. I've always been investing in stocks and real estate. And so crypto was kind of spoke naturally to me. I kind of understood what was going on, and saw this technology, and it really stood out to me. And so as I was trying to develop this business for real estate, I started to get a passion, or I started learning about blockchain and what is this thing. So after I spent, probably like 50 to 80 hours researching, just trying to understand like, what is this, and understanding this jargon behind it, because there's a lot of words that we've never heard before. So yeah, after I learned about it, I saw the opportunity, and I saw, in this last bull market that we had in the space, in particular for NFTs and cryptocurrencies, I just saw that it's inevitable this technology is going to take over, and that this technology will be, a new iteration of the internet almost. So after I had this kind of aha moment, and I don't think it was like one thing, I was just constantly reading about it, and then it all kind of just made sense to me. But yeah, after it made sense to me, I kind of never looked back. I've been full-time in this space. I started as an investor, then I started doing trading. And then after I started doing trading, I really got heavily involved in the communities, trying to understand like, how are people building these groups and these projects and making money, and also helping other people. And then I decided, I felt like I was in a position where I really could do something on my own. And I felt like there was a gap in terms of education, just in my own experience. When I was trying to learn about this space, it was really hard to kind of have a resource or a place to navigate to. And I was kind of going all over the place, asking people questions here, asking people questions there, going on this site, that site. So it was just a really hard experience for me to kind of learn, but it was a really rewarding one, because after all of that, I'm in a position now where I'm able to offer to people, this kind of education, this onboarding, and allow people a place to have a network where they can kind of go through their Web3 journey with. So yeah.
And that's exactly what Web3Ready is doing, or that you're launching, because you just launched, right?
So we did just launch. So I actually was working with a partner on a different venture. It was the same concept. It was education and onboarding. We were working on it for about 6 months, and I felt like a lot of opportunities started kind of coming to the table, and a lot of opportunities, that were good for us. And I felt like I was kind of bringing all of those. And it was my partner who I had, it just didn't work out for us, so I wanted to split up. So I kind of took all of my experience from that, and I just launched a new one, which I launched last week. So it's the same concept, just education, onboarding, and the way we provide value is in the form of high quality content. So this content, whether it be, audio, video, or text, it's all digital content. And the purpose of it is to entertain, guide, and help our followers so that they can understand Web3 and stay updated on the trends of Web3.
Wow. Are you guys going to develop an application for it as well, so people are going to be able to have Web3 educational purposes on their mobile devices at all?
So right now we run through 3 social platforms. It's Twitter, Discord, and then we have our website. Our website will be kind of the main host of all of our content, and kind of, where eventually we'll have courses and training and workshops for our users. But right now we're mainly focusing on targeting B2B, just because, this is kind of a one-man show. I have a couple of people working for me. I have 4 people working for me, but they all work for free. And so that only gets me so far. And, I really want to focus on the B2B, because not only do I think that'll give me credibility, but I also think it'll allow me to scale. And so on a B2B side of things, we want to provide an education and onboarding process for these groups or brands who are looking to enter the space. They have their users and audience that needs to understand how to interact with, a virtual wallet or a smart contract, and be understanding how these things work. And so we would go into the business or the group and we would develop material, whether that's text or video or whatever the group wants. And we would kind of develop the material for their brand, but around the Web3 concepts. So kind of breaking those barriers to entry. Does that make sense?
Yeah, 100%. And that's where I was going with it, is the inclusiveness of whether you're an individual or a business, how that would work. Because of course, people want to understand Web3 on their own individually, but if you're looking at it from a business perspective, there's a lot of potential that way as well. And the actual utilities of Web3 is what I would think will drive businesses, of course, because utilities are what people need and want. So I would also say for you, especially since you're being like a one-man show, is how are you managing all of this?
It's been really hard. Like, I won't lie at all. Luckily, I'm in summer. I did quit that internship, so like all my time is focused on this. It's been really hard, but I mean, you just kind of, when you want something, and I guess, when you have that, like, I grew up in an immigrant family where they came from another country. They didn't have anything. And my parents didn't go to college. So they created this life for themselves. And I grew up around, business owners. And I kind of always knew that I wanted to do this. And so I think that natural like dedication and those natural feelings inside, they always motivate me no matter like what position I'm in, just because I know I'm going to get there. I know that I'm going to have, employees helping me and people to hire and outsource to, but it's all part of the process, man. I mean, I'm just enjoying it as much as I can, like as stressful and as hard as it is. I just try to enjoy it.
Yeah, definitely. And what would be a piece of advice for someone that's starting a business or a startup like this?
I mean, really the biggest thing is like this space moves so fast, you look away for a second and the new trend is there, and you make one mistake and everybody, they're done. So I think my biggest advice would be to like really just take it slow and do what and what you're passionate about, because you can never go wrong if you're doing what and also kind of what you want to do,
Just stay on your toes. That's all you got to do.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no, that's tough. I mean, especially with the motivation factor and trying to keep everything organized. Man, I mean, I'm running 3 businesses right now too, so I completely understand where your head's at, and the stress. It's not necessarily like stress; it's an enjoyment stress. There's a difference, because you're actually like having fun doing it. There's just a lot that's going on that you have to be more direct and focused on. So I 100% understand where your head's at. And I always tell people who ask me about business is the overall concept of getting into business is about whether or not you can be disciplined or self-improve yourself to actually go in the path of where the business is going to be going, because things change so fast.
Yeah. And on that note, like, it's so easy to look at other people and see like where they're at and like numbers on social media and things like that can really affect your mental. But the reality is like, as long as you're doing what you want to be doing and you're doing it here's like the best way I could phrase it. You got to be intentional and you have to give a fuck. Because if you're not intentional and you don't give a fuck, you're not going to get anywhere when things get hard,
Yeah. Just give a fuck.
Definitely.
As simple as that. What is something that most people misunderstand about you?
About me personally?
Yeah.
That's a great question. I think it's probably like, making this jump from real estate to this Web3, I think was very like confusing for a lot of people. And I think for, a lot of people, it's hard to kind of grasp like why I believe in this so much. But I think we're really at a point in history where we are going through like the 2000s internet bubble, and not necessarily a bubble, but I believe we are going through this new creation of a new iteration of the internet. And I think that people don't understand, like, my conviction of it is so real that, you know, I'm willing at all costs to kind of do whatever it takes to take advantage of this opportunity. I think there's going to be a lot of money to be made, but I think more so, I think it's going to impact us on a human level, just like the internet did when it first arrived. You know, our world is completely consumed digitally now. You know, our smartphones are better than the computer that some of the presidents were running the free world with. You know, so I think that people don't really understand how come I see Web3, how I see it as, and how I made this jump from real estate to, you know, a tech, you know, new technology. So I think, you know, people just really don't understand, like, I guess my faith in this industry, and also just how I was able to make that jump, you know, because I think they're two very different like industries.
Yeah, just some people have doubts about it and confusion, I'd say too, especially because it is new.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. There's a lot of confusion. I get a lot of questions. And I think, you know, there will be a time where all of these things that we are discussing now, like, they'll be, you know, you'll understand them better than anything else. Just like how we understand our mobile phones and our laptops and how to interact with those. It'll be the same thing with all of this technology. It's just going to take time for mass adoption to happen.
Of course. No, I agree with you 100% on that. And I need to catch up on speed with it too, and get ahead of the curve with it. But
yeah, man. I mean, whenever you want, let me know.
yeah, definitely. I mean, I'll be one of the top guys enrolled on your Web3 stuff. So I'm very interested, and I'm 100% going to support you in all of that stuff, because I definitely think it's going to go in that right direction.
Absolutely. But I have no doubt.
Yeah. And I'm also thinking of your background in real estate. How are you doing anything with NFTs and real estate combined? Where's your thought process on real estate and Web3 altogether?
So, I mean, altogether, I think, you know, I think that NFTs and just like Web3, it'll be implemented across the board, no matter like what it is. You know, I've heard some interesting use cases on real estate, you know, just like tokenizing things and kind of putting contracts or titles on the blockchain, very basic stuff. I haven't read a lot of like very well thought out and well developed, you know, things about real estate and the blockchain. I think it'll definitely have an impact in this industry. I'm just not sure how yet. And, you know, like I said, my background is in real estate, so I definitely think about this all the time. But it's a very interesting question, because like most industries, you know, they're going to have to transfer eventually. And so a lot of people are hesitant to these ideas right now. And so before we can even go industry by industry, we kind of have to first do what I'm trying to do, and that is get educated and learn about the basic fundamental things that are happening, and why this technology is the next internet, and why we're going to adopt it, you know? And I think once people understand like the fundamentals, then there will be so many creative ideas of how to implement it and how to utilize it. And so when I talk to a lot of real estate professionals and in my network, you know, I get a lot of backlash because they're so far away from this stuff, from this technology. So it hasn't really even come there yet. But I think that once a couple of key players, you know, just one or two key players, you know, big names in the industry or big companies, once they kind of start exploring, I think we'll start to see just a wide net of opportunities in real estate.
Definitely. A lot of influence around in the community is what's going to take the shift.
For sure. I mean, I've definitely seen it applied to regular finance, you know, and there's a lot of like decentralized finance happening now, as well as centralized finance just integrated onto the blockchain. So I think once, you know, there's also the question of regulation. So, people are so hesitant, people being big institutions are so hesitant because there's not a lot of, regulation around this. And why would these big companies or big individuals want to, throw millions and billions of dollars in an industry that one day could be completely, opposite of what it is now?
Yeah. I mean, who knows how you're getting taxed on crypto? That was a huge thing when
Yeah.
it first started happening. Yeah.
Still, so it'll be a while before, all of this is figured out. And I think that for right now, it's going to be really hard for people in the space because, there's so many negative situations and things happening. But what I always tell people is all these things that are happening, the corrections in the market, they're good things because they purge out, these failures of the system and of this new technology. And it allows us to go back to understand what went wrong and how do we improve it, and then how do we implement it.
Yeah. Yeah, dude. Crazy times. I'm so pumped for
it is. No, it's going to be interesting, man. I think that, we're so early, like in 5 years, 5 to 10 years, this is going to be dominating, the dominating internet that we use. So I'm really looking forward to see what happens. And I'm really looking forward to help onboard a lot of people into this space.
Yeah. And on that note, is getting people to get into the space is something that's really difficult, whether that's coming with marketing, networking, just word of mouth, getting people around you to actually, care or buy into something is very difficult. And a simple message on LinkedIn is exactly how we met. And my question to you is, what is one of your top like networking tips in order to meet people and get your name personally out there with Web3?
So in this industry, specifically with Web3, I think the biggest thing that I've learned is obviously, like, all of this happens digitally. So when there's an opportunity for an in real life event or something in real life, I've always tried to take advantage of it as best as I can. And I've learned that in these in real life events, the interactions are so different when it's screen to screen. So when you get to these in real life conventions or events and, networking parties, like, you meet people and you meet what this industry is at and where mentally it's at, because you talk to people and you learn, what are people thinking? How are people viewing this? What is their perspective? What is their outlook? So I think that for me, in my experience, the top networking tip has been going to these events. There's only so many right now. NFT NYC, NFT LA, there's Consensus Week, which is a big crypto event. And then, there's a couple of smaller ones, but these conventions are how I've really come to understand that this space is like nowhere to close to mass adoption. And it was actually another reason why I wanted to create a business like this, because the first convention I went to, I actually walked around to every single booth one by one, just talking to the people. And at this point, like, I had really understood my shit. So, I kind of wanted to see, like, where are these people and these companies at? And so, I would talk to the booths, I would talk to the people there. And not only did they not sometimes know kind of what they're talking about, they didn't really understand the technology, they were just kind of there to sell. But I would find vendors who would tell me that like 80 to 90% of the people that are at these conventions don't know what's going on. They don't know like what this space is or anything about it. And so I was just shocked that people are spending thousands of dollars to travel and go to these conventions, and they don't know what the fuck it is. Like, it's very similar to the internet bubble, where people were just trying to make money like left and right. And so this is why I think education and onboarding is so crucial, because as much as this space is like about trading and, making a quick buck, that's all BS. In the long scheme of things, that's all going to go away. And if we don't properly have people understanding, like, having these aha moments, like, wow, this is the craziest technology, like, wow, whoever thought of this is genius, if we don't have these things, then it's just going to take even longer for mass adoption. And Yeah, man, I think that going to these events is key to really understanding where we are at, to meeting people, and also hearing, what these companies are doing and what they plan to be doing.
Yeah. And conferences are a huge key with just meeting people in your industry. And I feel like conferences also get overlooked at times because people just want to, join an Instagram live or check something out digitally. But the lack of in-person communication for a lot of people is what they need. And that's pretty much simple as that is. If you want to meet people, if you want to actually dive into something and not just sit on your phone and scroll through it and try to learn it that way, you got to go out and meet people. And people
Sure,
are what going to drive your business. Like
for
those
sure.
people are what push your ideologies, are what push the other people to actually gravitate towards you and your company. So I think conferences are definitely the best thing for you in this case as well.
Absolutely. And I think, especially for like an internet and technology industry, I think that human interaction in real life is even more so important because you spend so much time behind the screen and you hear about all these like memes and trends and all that shit. And like as much as that's real, it's just behind the screen. Like these people in real life are completely different, and the interactions you have with them are completely different, even in yourself, how you're acting towards the screen versus towards a human face. So yeah, man, I think that networking, it's super important to, especially in a digital industry, to go and be in real life and meet these people in real life. So yeah.
Definitely. And what are some of the biggest challenges that you're facing currently with Web3 and big business?
Oh man, I guess the biggest challenge I'm facing is like just, I mean, this isn't like, I don't even want to say this is a horrible answer, but being alone has been kind of hard just because there's so much that like I have a very clear vision, an idea, and a plan written out of how I want this to look for my company and for my vision. And it's hard executing on all of those pieces at the same time, and more particularly executing them with quality versus quantity. And this space is moves so fast, man. Like I can't even tell you, like I mean, you look away for 5 minutes, it's changed. Something drastic could have happened, like a fucking coin could have collapsed in the whole market, so much happens. And I think with how fast it's moving, honestly, like being a one-man show, it's really hard to keep up because you're looking at these other brands and kind of there's not really many people doing what I'm doing, but some of the smaller names who are doing it, as they continue to progress, you feel that pressure. And I think it's important to keep up with that pressure because eventually that opportunity is going to expire by, that opportunity of being first and being early is going to expire. So really trying to communicate value, free value to consumers when you're trying to also, do all the back end things of the business. It's been hard in this space for how fast the space moves, for sure.
Definitely. And you touched on a topic right there, which was the back end of the business. And I feel like that's something that gets overlooked and nobody really talks about when building a business or discussing business ideas is it's all great in the forefront, like you can have everything set and ready to go. But if you don't have systems and processes, if you don't have that back end of your business on lockdown, the front end is going to fall apart.
Yeah.
And that, I mean, that's something that I want to hear about on your side too, is like, what are you doing for the back end of your business?
Yeah, no, I think you just mentioned a great point about like having the processes and things. I think the biggest thing I'm dealing with right now is trying to clearly make these processes for when I hire people, and even for the people who are working for free for me. The biggest problem actually is knowledge, because there's only so much I can outsource if these people don't understand this industry and this space, or a certain topic. They might understand the overarching things, but they don't understand the detail specific things that I'm trying to address. And so I think the biggest problem on the back end and trying to establish these processes is like, when you're onboarding people who aren't in the space, you have to kind of first, or when you're trying to create these processes for people who aren't in the space, you have to onboard them and you have to explain everything to them. And that's a whole fucking process in itself. And then for the people who are in this space, you know, only so many will want to work for free. And the ones who work for free are obviously not, you know, the cream of the crop, because those who are either doing it on their own, or they're a part of a group that they're getting paid for. And so with the free guys that I'm having a problem with is like, you know, they understand things and they're doing things well, but then when it comes to doing it like professionally as a business and kind of going more, taking that extra step professionally, I'm finding that lacking for sure. So, you know, I'm working through those things and figuring out how to work through those things. And it's just a process, but again, you know, it's all, the journey is a really good one and I enjoy all of it. And so at the end of it, like I'm enjoying teaching people and kind of building this. And I know it's a little slower than I want it to be, but it'll all pick up eventually. And so, you know, just like you said, it's very, very important to figure out how to create those processes in the back end so that you don't have to worry about it. And the front end will be handled on its own.
Damn straight on that one. I mean,
Yes,
yeah. I mean, did you ever think that, you know, in high school, you were going to be a teacher of some sort?
the last thing I think I ever thought I would be is a freaking teacher, man. I was like, this is the worst thing. Why would anyone want to do this? Like, I would never want to be a teacher. And it's funny you mentioned that, because like I'd never like really even think of myself as a teacher, like, but I am. And you know, I think that it's important, and this is kind of something I'm super passionate about, and I found a way to kind of implement it business wise, because that's all I've ever done is known like business and investing and making money. So I'm very happy that I could find a way to kind of integrate the two together.
Yeah, no, it's a huge plus. And I think that opportunities in the sense of Web3 for you in this case, or in my case of like the photography and real estate, you know, opportunities like that don't come by often. And, you know, those decisions are what guide us through our life, whether it's a big decision or a small decision that has a bigger impact. There's various opportunities for everybody in this world to actually change their lives. And, you know, you're doing something that's great and that you're actually passionate about, which I love. And that's an opportunity that you've taken. And a lot of people haven't done that. So I applaud you just for that, because taking that leap is just, it's scary.
Yeah,
It's really scary.
sure. No, I appreciate that, man. You too, though. I mean, I completely understand. You know, I've thought about doing a podcast like so many times before. And even with this new thing I'm doing, you know, I've had so many people tell me, start a podcast, start a podcast. So I know how hard all of it is, and applauds to you, man.
I appreciate it. You should definitely start a podcast though, because that's, you know, a lot of the stuff that you're doing is, you know, just talking.
Yeah,
So the podcast is going to be great for you.
for sure. For sure.
I mean, have you done any like Clubhouse discussions? You know, Clubhouse.
So we do a lot of Twitter discussions and also Discord, like voice chat, AMAs, which is just ask me anything.
Yeah.
So, you know, I'm very familiar with the podcast style, and it's actually my favorite way of communicating. But I just think right now I'm just stretched out way too thin. So I don't want to, you know, like I said, I'm really trying to focus on quality over quantity. But I think once I get to a point where I scale, it's definitely something that is going to be implemented.
For sure. And what is like a productivity hack that you're doing right now to keep you organized and on track?
You know, I think it's super, super important to stay in a routine. As cliche as that may sound, I just really believe that like your brain, you know, we've evolved in so many different ways as humans, and your brain understands some things better than others. And one thing it really understands is a routine. And when you get your body naturally to do a routine, your mind will follow. And so, you know, for me, it's really important to stay on a routine every single day, at least Monday through Friday, so that when I am working, I'm getting 100% out of myself, you know, and getting as much as I can.
Yeah, 100%. And are you using any softwares to keep you organized that way?
I don't really need any softwares. The biggest thing I'm using is like Google Drive to keep all of my files and stuff organized. And then obviously our social channels. But yeah, man, just trying to kind of, in my mind every day, I write down a schedule for the next day and try to stick to that schedule as much as possible. I kind of have different times of the day blocked out for either working or going to work out or doing X, Y, or Z. So yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Google Drive's probably one of the main things that I used. But have you ever used Notion?
I have not. What is that?
You should try using Notion, Notion. It's literally, think of it as another Google Drive, except you can have like sub pages within sub pages within sub pages, and you can put calendars, content calendars, organize everything that way. You can also do teams on there as well. If you
I've
have it,
actually seen it.
yeah,
I've
it's
I've
good.
seen sites of it, but I've never used it myself. That's something
You sh-
really cool. I'll definitely look into it.
you should. I use it for all three of my businesses, and it's something that has definitely helped me out a lot with staying organized,
Yeah.
and especially with content calendar. Like the content calendar, I was having so much struggle, and I didn't want to pay for a content calendar because you can pay for like monday.com or any of those sites, but I was like, Notion has one for me right here, and you just
Right.
use a calendar. You can organize everything by different social platforms, by different types of content, people that you work with, all of the above, and it's great. You should definitely check it out. I think it'd
That's
be
super dope. Yeah, no,
worth
I
your while.
definitely will. Thanks for that.
Yeah, for sure. I tell everybody use Notion because it's also free, so it's great.
Yeah.
Um,
Cool. I'll
but
definitely check it out.
yeah, you should. If you had 10 times the budget that you have right now, what is something that you are doing immediately? Whether it's business, personal, however you please, but you had 10 times the budget. What are you doing?
Well, it would, none of it would go to personal. It would all just be invested into the business. But, I think
Definitely.
one of the final goals that I'm trying to do here is make this into a multi-million dollar digital company, as well as almost, I don't want to say consultant, but in terms of like the service provided, it's a very consultant like. So I would spend it tremendously on hiring people who can just create. Well, first of all, I would have a whole team. I would have a content producing team and have, the whole organization chart, have an editor, have a writer, have all of that for video, for text, for audio. And then I would also have, a marketing team that would be getting leads all the time. And, if I had that budget, I think it would all be spent very carefully, just building up a fantastic group of individuals who can kind of fill in the parts for me so that I don't have to fill in those parts and focus on the overarching business and kind of the more high level things and kind of trying to scale it, grow the cash flows, maybe take it, sell it eventually. So I'd really, really like to just get a group of people who can start pumping content out consistently, very well professional made content, as well as have a group of people who are, constantly focusing on bringing that B2B side of business so that we can continue providing that free value for the consumers.
Yeah, and a huge part of that is definitely the free aspect of what you're
Right.
doing. You
Right.
know,
And
and for a lot of people, that's they got to pay for that stuff.
right. And so like, I'm paying for a couple of things like Discord. I have to pay for some stuff. I have to pay for the website domain, all these things. And so I think if I had that kind of budget, I would just really try to focus on outsourcing a lot of the busy work that I'm doing so that I can focus on kind of just getting this thing to the next level.
Yeah, 100% agree. I think that's the main thing that people would spend the money on is not, the softwares or anything. It's definitely the people,
The
because
people,
people drive your business.
for
Simple as
sure.
that.
Yeah. And like, if you get the right people and, you work out a good deal with them, it can really just really level up your business. So, as soon as I do get some money, I really am going to just be focusing on getting those people.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
And
man.
in the real estate space, are you still doing that, or are you like 100% focused on Web3 right now?
So right now I'm 100% focused on Web3. Obviously, like I'm still very in the know of like the real estate market and the stuff in what's happening there. But in terms of like kind of developing out my skills and working on that, I've really put that on pause just because I'm a true believer in like focusing on one thing at a time. So I don't think if I did real estate and Web3, I don't think I'd be able to do both of those at my best levels. So I kind of had like a decision to make of what path am I going to pursue. And I really, like I said, I made that jump. I quit my internship and I kind of just haven't looked back. I'm just focused on Web3 right now. I do plan to eventually go back into real estate and put all my money into real estate just because obviously I believe in it more than any other asset and investing type that you can. But I think that this space is super young. I think it's very in my field, in my generation. I think that the people who are building the space are a part of my generation, but I think, that we are building it for the next generation. Like I have a younger brother who's 14 and I've watched him grow up and play video games. And obviously I like video games too, but that's kind of how I understood that this stuff is going to be here forever, because this next generation, I mean, even us, we haven't really lived a life without a digital device. And we know our lives so digitally, and the next generation and knows it even more so, and so on. And that effect kind of compounds, in my opinion. And so I think that it's a perfect time to focus on this, to go all in and kind of, make my name, make my brand, make my money. But eventually I do believe that real estate, is the end all be all. Take all my money back into there, kind of, passively invest into that. I definitely want to create another business in that with a very good friend of mine. And for the time being, I'm just going to be grinding out this. And yeah, man.
100%. I think that real estate's the one place to be, especially within the next coming year. I think it's going to be popping off, with everything that's going on in that industry. But yeah, my closing remarks to you is definitely just, if there's something that I didn't touch on, what would you want to talk about?
Yeah, man. So I'm having this weird sound and I don't know where it's coming from. I'm not sure if you can hear it.
Yeah, I can hear it. No worries. Take your time.
Okay, I got it.
Sweet.
Apologies.
No, you're all good.
Okay, I'm sorry. Could you repeat the question? Or the question was what you didn't ask and how I would answer it?
There you go.
So I guess, I mean, honestly, you didn't really ask like what my business model or like kind of how I'm trying to achieve this education onboarding, but really, I'm focusing on creating, curating, and distributing content. And all of that content for everybody is free. And the way I kind of plan to monetize is go on this B2B route, go to these businesses, kind of help them develop their material, get paid out for that. And like I said, go back and scale. And for the consumers, I would really like to just provide as much free content as possible. I think in the next bull run, I will definitely have an NFT pass. That was always my original idea, to have this NFT barred community, because that's what a lot of people do in the space and how a lot of people make money. But, I would really just like to explain that, like, I literally just make content. Like, that's all I do. I just make content. Yeah. I talk to people in Discord and on Twitter, and I bring them to this platform so that not only they can learn from me, but there's so many other people who are smarter than me and that they could network with and kind of understand which direction do they want to go in this space, because there's so many different things. There's NFTs, cryptos, there's games, there's metaverse. So there's so many things. And I'm only one person. I really just want to create this platform for people to come together and create this amazing community filled with content and filled with education.
I love it. I love it so much. And it's a great business model to have, because I mean, like I said, I don't know much about it, but sounds awesome.
Thank you. And I really appreciate you letting me come on here today and talk about this and go over it. And it's been a really good conversation, man.
Yeah, of course. And if someone wants to reach out to you, whether it's with Web3 or personally, where are they going?
So you can find me on Twitter. My Twitter is Web3_Ready. I'm also on Discord, which you can find the link in the Twitter, but if you don't find it, it's literally just W3Ready. And then my website is W3Ready.io. So you can find me there. And yeah, just shoot a DM anytime or reach out to me, and I'd be more than happy to help you and kind of, see what's the best way for you to participate in this.
Awesome. Definitely go hit up Mark, and I appreciate you coming on to the business playground, and it was awesome talking with you, Mark.
Cool, man. You too. Thank you, Jacob.
Of course. Thank you.